All right, so today what we're going to be learning about is the law of sines. So you can take your unit circle out and write these three fractions that are equal to each other together on the same spot. And essentially what it is, the law of sines. So there's law of sines, which you have not learned yet. And then there's going to be a law of cosines, which we're going to get to in the next section. And these are going to be the two last formulas, I do believe, finally, on your unit circle. Don't quote me on that one. But so put these on the back of your unit circle. Remember, capital letters always are for angles. So sine of A, that's a capital A, would be sine of the angle over little a. And remember, capital A and little a are always opposite of each other. Okay, and then we got sine of B over little b, and then sine of angle C over little c. Okay, and these are the law of sines. I'm going to show you how these work here in 2 seconds here. So finish writing that up, and then I will move on to the next slide. All right, so what we have here, it says a civil engineer wants to determine the distance from points A and B to an inaccessible point, point C, as shown. From direct measurement, the engineer knows that angle A is 110 degrees, angle B is 120 degrees, and the length from A to B is 25 meters. So we want to find, essentially it says, we want to determine the distances from point A and B to some point C that is in the water. So if they're building a bridge and they got to put down a post or something like that, they want to know how far it is from point A to C and then from point B to C. Okay, but they gave me these pieces of information. So what I'm going to do first is when you have some information, we're going to draw my picture, which it is, and I'm going to label it. Okay, so if I label this properly, angle A down here. Let's try that one more time. Okay, angle A down here is 110 degrees. Okay, angle B over here is 20 degrees, not a good 20. Okay, and then AB, this right here, AB, is not an angle, so therefore it is a length, and that will be this side. Okay, and here's what the law of sines is. If I go back to here, okay, if I drew any random triangle, okay, I got angle A, angle B, and angle C. Okay, if this is, one part is angle A, the other side opposite is little a. Okay, when we are looking for law of sines, I am looking for where do I have a number at each one. So like if this is a 20, and this was a 3, this is the sides that I would use. Okay, let's say I didn't have that. Let's say I had, this was a 5, and this was a 70 degrees. Now do you see how these would be my two sides? So it would be little c, this side's little c, this side's capital C. They are opposite of each other, and I know both of the values. The value here is 5, the value here is 70. So, going back to this picture right here, okay, and I'm looking at this, do I know an angle and the side opposite of it? I don't right now. But can I find this missing angle? So what information do we know about right triangle, or any triangle? All the interior angles add up to how many degrees? 180, correct. So therefore I'm going to take 110 plus 120, and that would give me 130, and subtract 130 from 180, leaving me with 50 degrees. So now I'm left with 50 degrees there. So now, do I have an angle and a side opposite that angle? Okay, I do. So therefore, here's what I'm going to do. Sine of my angle, which is 50 degrees, over its opposite, which is 25, equals sine, I'll go 110, over its opposite. So what's opposite from 110? Do I know? I don't. I'm going to put an x. Okay, so then that x is going to go right here. Alright, so then from this step now, once I have set it up, I just use algebra to solve. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these guys and cross multiply them. And I'm going to take those guys and cross multiply them. Okay, so now in my calculator I would take 25. What mode do we have to be in every single time since we were talking about degrees? You have to be in degree mode. So I would go mode, I go down to degree and make sure that is on. Okay, and then I would plug it in. So it'd be 25 times the sine of 110. Okay, and that gives me 23.49. And that will equal sine of 50 times x. Okay, and how do I get x by itself? I'm going to divide by the sine of 50. What you do to one side, I do to the other. Okay, so now if I'm going to do this in my calculator, I would then just go divided by sine 50 and hit enter. And therefore this x is going to be 30.7 meters. Okay, so I know the length from A or B to C is 30.7 meters. I now need to find the other length. Okay, so I'm going to again move these arrows out of the way here. Okay. Now, if I'm back looking over here again, okay, I'm going to erase what I have now. Okay, law of sines again says I need an angle and the side opposite of it first. So then I look here again. So again, if I look here, do you see how I already know this angle and that opposite, just like before. Okay, so since I know the angle and its opposite, I'm going to do the same thing. It's going to be sine of my angle, 50, over its opposite, which is 25, because they are across from each other. Okay, equals sine of, which one haven't I used yet? I haven't used the 20. Okay, so now it's going to be sine of 20 over its opposite. We will call that y over here because I don't know what it is. Okay, and then I do the same process. So now it's sine of 20 times 25. So sine of 20, put that in parentheses, times 25. And that gives me 8.55, equaling, if you cross multiply these guys, we get sine of 50 times y. So how do you get y by itself? I divide by sine of 50. So in your calculator, take that answer divided by the sine of 50. And what is my answer for my length here? 11.2 meters. 11.2 meters. Okay, and now I have found all the sides and all of the angles. Alright, let's try another one here. Law of sines. Alright, so here's the information that I am given. Okay, I got B equals 10, A equals 30. Let's label what I know. So I got A equals 30, done with that one. I got B equals 10, done with that. A equals 4. Little a would be in which side? Little a is always across from capital A, so that means this side would have to be 4. Okay, so let's do law of sines here to find angle B. So we're looking for angle B, which is this angle over here. Okay, so let's do law of sines. So it'd be sine. When we do law of sines, it's always we need to know an angle. So here's my angle I know. Here's the side I know. So I know angle 30, and I know the side opposite is 4. So once I know those, I'm ready to go there. Okay, so then my next step would be I need another angle and its opposite. So then angle, so it'd be sine. I don't know it, so I'm going to call it angle B over its opposite, which is 10. Okay, so let's plug this into my calculator now. Okay, so in my calculator, I will cross multiply again. So it's sine of 30. So sine, again, what mode do I have to be in? Degree mode. Okay, so I'm going to go sine of 30 times 10. Okay, so that's 5. So now if I cross multiply, I'm going to get this turning into 5. So 5 equals, if you cross multiply here, it's 4 sine of B. Okay, and how do I get sine of B by itself? I divide both sides by 4. Okay, so when I divide by 4, I'm going to move my problem over here now. I'm going to be left with 5 over 4 equals the sine of B. Is B an angle or a side? B is an angle, so therefore to find an angle, what we do in my calculator every single time is we do the inverse. Okay, so I'm going to do the sine inverse. So in my calculator I'm going to go second sine inverse of 5 over 4. Okay, and then if I hit enter on that, it says quit, domain error. Okay, if I ever have an error I always go to, and it says something's wrong with my fraction. So here's the deal. This triangle, why there's an error is technically angle B does not exist. So you're probably wondering why this triangle wasn't completely looking like a triangle. And the reason is because technically since this length over here is 4, okay, it's too short. So if it went down like this, it would swing and it wouldn't be able to hit because it's only 4 units long. Okay, so it's not even touching, so it doesn't make a triangle, therefore that's the reason why we had an error on my screen. Okay, so this triangle doesn't exist, you can't find angle B using that one. Okay, let's try this next one here. So now, the only difference now is that A equals what? 5. So we can do the same thing here. And again, it's law of sines. Okay, so it's the sine. Well, again, law of sines, I always need to know an angle and the side opposite, and this opposite side would be 5. So sine of 30 over its opposite, which is 5, equals sine of B over its opposite, which is 10. Cross multiply, sine of 30 times 10, and so sine of 30, close off the parenthesis, times 10, you get 5 again. Okay, and then if I solve the other one, it's going to be 5 equals 5 times the sine of B. And how do I get B sine by itself? I divide by 5, and you get 1 here. So how do you find angle B again? If I'm ever looking for an angle, I always have to do the inverse. So now if I go sine inverse, so second sine inverse of 1, because that's what 5 divided by 5 would be, I end up getting 90. So now if you think about this one, this angle 5 actually is just long enough to barely touch at 90 degrees, and then it goes back up and it doesn't touch again. So it swings down, nicks it there, and goes back up. Okay, so that one actually made a right triangle. So sine of B equals 90. All right, now let's look at this one. Now technically on this one, same problem as before, except instead of 5 on the bottom here, I'm going to actually bring this down here and copy it. And I'm going to bring it down to my next slide. Same setup. And instead of 5 at the bottom, what is actually going to be on the bottom now since A equals 6? Correct, a 6. Okay, so I put a 6 here. Okay, so if I put a 6, now I'm there. So then it's the same problem. Sine of 30 times 10 is 5. So now I'm left with sine, or sorry, 5 equals 6 times the sine of B. Okay, I divide by 6. So now you do the inverse again, just like the last two problems. Okay, so sine inverse of that, giving me, there we go, giving me sine inverse of 5 divided by 6, and we get 56 degrees. Okay, so my answer for this problem is 56 degrees. Now, in the book, there is actually two possible answers for this. Okay, 56 degrees is one of them. So if I had a 56 degree angle, okay, what that means is now, since it's longer, before this side just came down and it hit. But now, since this is 6 units, it's actually longer, so it might hit here once, and that would be when my angle is 56 degrees, but it will also swing back around and it will hit over here a second time. Okay? And if you're following along in the book, which is where this example is from, to get the other answer, which the other answer is, if I can look for it here, 123.6 degrees. So I do believe if I minus from 180, okay, I get 123.6 degrees. And it'd be the other way around. It'd be 180 minus 56.4. And you get 123.56. So that's how they get the other angle if you just subtract from 180. So then that angle could be here at 123.56. Okay, got one more example. All right, so here I am. First step on every problem is you need to draw the triangle out. Okay, so I drew it out. Then next I need to label. Okay, so angle S, find it, 126, label it. Okay, so I go down here and I have 126 degrees. Little t is always opposite of the big T, so then that means this is a 7. Little s is always opposite of the big S, so that means this on the side over here, which is opposite of S, would be 12. Okay, so now I've labeled my triangle. I gotta do law of sines. Again, law of sines means I always need, you can see how right here, I have an angle and the side opposite, and I know both values. So that means that's going to be my first law of sines that I'll use. So it's going to be the sine of my angle over its opposite, which is 12, equals, now I got to use one thing that I do know. So what's the one other thing I do know? I do know that this 7's here. So that means I got to have 7 on the bottom, and then what angle would be opposite that? Angle what? Yep, T. Okay, so then there I put angle T, sine of angle T. So then from this step again, all I do is cross what? Multiply. So 12 times sine of t gives me 12 sine of t, equaling. Okay, and then what would 7 times the sine of 126 give me? So I come over here. 7 times sine of 126, again be in degree mode, and that gives me 5.66. Okay, so this equals 5.66. Okay, and then from this step, how do I get t by itself? I divide both of them by 12. Okay, since I'm dividing by 12, I can just leave. It's better to not round your answer, so I would just then hit divided by 12 on my calculator. So now I'm left with this decimal. Okay, so now the 12s cancel. I'm left with the sine of t equaling like 0.47. Okay, and how do I solve this? How do I get rid of sine? Or how do I find the angle? In my calculator, to find the angle, we always do the inverse. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And again, what I do so that I don't have to round is I'm going to do sine inverse. So I go second sine inverse, and instead of rounding that decimal, I just go second answer. That's that negative sign down there, and that's going to bring this 0.4719 down to there. If I hit enter, I get my angle, which is 28.2 or 159, so 0.2. So we'll go, this angle is 28.2 degrees. Okay, now on your assignment, when you guys end up doing your assignment today, I do believe that the directions say solve each triangle. So when it says solve each triangle, what that means is you have to find all of the missing angles that they haven't given you, and all the missing sides. So if I look at this triangle up here, and I'm solving this triangle, I would still need to find this side R, okay, and the other missing angle. Now the missing angle is easy, because that would be just 180 minus though. So you minus 180 from there. So since I already have that, we'll just do that quick and then I'll let you work. So we got 126 plus 28.2 equals that, minus 180, and I get 25.8 degrees. So now that would be 25.8 degrees. Okay, and then you do law of sines again. So I could use these two red ones because I know those are opposites. And then I would use those two to find my letter R. which you guys can do. Okay, so for today, you will be doing those problems. They are all odds, they are all in the back of the book. Please check them, and if you don't know how to do them, find somebody. Boys on the left side there, no excuse that you don't know how to do it. And let's get after it. This has been Kelly Remick's second, sorry, not Kelly Remick, Mr. Remick's second YouTube video. Over and out.